have Anne Dvinge, who's the founder of Lo-Fi, and I'm really happy to have you here to interview you. Nice to meet you.
Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be here.
Mm-hmm. So first of all, I am personally very excited for this interview because I was very surprised at the service that you have. I had a look at your website, and this whole intimate concert idea, I just found it very brilliant. As a music lover, I think it's just such a wonderful idea, and it's very surprising that you made it real and happen, actually. So I want to ask you about the inspiration behind this whole business idea. Like, what sparked you with this whole lo-fi?
All right. Well, I worked for 10 years as a music researcher at Copenhagen University. And part of my research was about what happens when you take music out of the venue and put it into rooms that aren't necessarily built for music. And what happens in terms of the dynamics between space and audience and artists. And I'm very interested in moments where what we call the fourth wall, that's like the between artists and musicians, when that starts to crumble. In my work, I also had a colleague who approached me saying, hey, she had this beautiful house north of Copenhagen where we were situated, and she said, I would love to be a little more generous with this house and share it. So I would love to put on concerts in my living room. Would you come help me? So we started putting on these concerts in her house, and I was completely intrigued and fell head over heels in this home concert format, because that format is so powerful in terms of breaking down boundaries between artists and audience. Yeah. The home concert, is this place that, interestingly enough, living rooms across cultures are actually very similar, right? Some comfortable seating and some personal knickknacks. Lighting can change a little bit. The Scandinavians are very much about spotlighting. If you go to Southern Europe, it's a little more sort of overhead lighting, but other than that, it's like, and we're culturally conditioned to conceive of the living room as a safe space. Even if it's not ours, we enter it. And you also don't, it's not even though you've maybe bought a ticket for a home concert, it's less of a transaction as it is sort of an invitation. So when people enter for a home concert, they will walk around meeting each other. They will say hello. They will shake hands. They will talk to one another. In Denmark, if you go to a concert at a venue or a concert hall, and you sort of tap the stranger next to you on their shoulder and saying, "Hi, I'm Anna. Who are you and why are you here?" They will think you are a crazy person, like crazy. You'll be like crazy stalker. You don't strike up random conversations with strangers in Denmark. It's, again, there are cultural differences, but this was sort of so lovely that you could see people having conversations both with each other, but also conversations flowing back and forth between artist and audience. So that was just the sort of main inspiration, really. The next thing that also happened was that as I was putting on these concerts, I talked to so many musicians. And one of the main takeaways from that was that it's really, really difficult, particularly for either upcoming musicians or for musicians in genres that don't have like very big economies, like jazz and classical. It can be quite tricky to make money on music. Yeah, you make very little on streaming, and next to nothing. And live music is there are just not that many scenes. If you're upcoming, you're often asked to play for free because, hey, you're upcoming and you should be happy to get the exposure. And of course, musicians are always happy to get the exposure, but they also do need to pay for studio time and for instruments and just rent. So I was starting to think about the way that money flows in the music economy, and whether there was a way to make that money flow a little more democratic and transparent. Usually on average they get somewhere around 65 to 75% of the ticket income, and they can set their own price. So we try to empower them to also learn how to actually ask for money as a musician, to sort of put a it's tricky. How do you put a price tag on your art, and you want to go out and you want to play, but at the same time, so important that so those are sort of some of the thoughts that are behind lo-fi, and creating a community of music lovers and artists that can come together and create these concerts together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also agree that it's the best part of lo-fi is creating a community with like initially they were complete strangers, but now if you're in the same room listening to the same music, you have something in common that you can talk about so casually. I think that makes the best of it. But then the thing is, recently because of COVID, the world's in chaos, and I believe things have gotten more difficult to gather together. And I want to ask you about how you have dealt with this situational issue.
Yeah, it's we're calling it the COVID dance here at lo-fi. It's constant back and forth. Mm-hmm. In Denmark, we went into lockdown in March, early March into early June. That was the first round, and now we're back into another lockdown again. And on the first occasion, we actually went online and did online streaming, live streaming. It was fun and interesting to do. It was a great learning. Also in terms of, it's actually quite hard to monetize live streaming for the artists as well, because it's people, like the price tag on online content is just very low.
Yeah.
So it was difficult, but we did actually manage to do quite a lot of concerts. I think 25 in total, and the average pay per musician that each musician got out of it was about $300. So it was actually not that bad compared to a lot of other platforms. But then we've also been fortunate, because a typical lo-fi concert is about 25 to 30 people in a room. And so when the world started opening up again over the summer, we were ready to have concerts quite a lot sooner than big venues that really struggled with fitting in, 30 people in a big venue doesn't pay for opening the venue. It's quite expensive to open a big venue. It costs money before you even pay the band, right? You have to pay for staff and the bar and the door, the sound guy, the lighting technician, insurance, rent. There's like so many costs combined with opening a big venue. Whereas if me and my husband have a concert up here in our summer cottage, it doesn't cost us anything extra. Like whether we were sitting here looking at the fireplace by ourselves, or whether we're sitting here with 20 other people listening to a musician, it's the same cost. And it's so lovely to have people here. So we were basically back to business immediately, like 3 days after the lockdown, we were back to business. And right before Corona hit, we had seen this really interesting curve of a 20% growth month over month from about October 2019 till February 2020. We had seen a really strong growth on the platform and the concerts taking place across the country. So what we simply just did was we were back on that growth rate over the summer and into the early fall. And then now, we're back to trying to navigate these. Initially, people were still having concerts and they were just smaller because it was fewer people, because you needed more distance between everybody. But now it's another lockdown. We're not quite sure whether we're going to go online again, because one thing we also did learn in the spring was that there was a fatigue. Right? So the first few weeks, everybody rushed online. Yeah. But then once you've spent 3 months of Zoom meetings, sorry, that's see, he agrees with me. once you've had 3 months of Zoom where you spend all day in Zoom meetings,
then it gets a little tiresome.
You really don't want to, right? The last thing, I don't think I've ever watched so little Netflix as I did during lockdown, because I did not want any more screen. I read books, I walked the dog, I did all kinds of other things, but I really didn't. I took up cross stitch again. I used to do that as a child, just like stuff that was not screen time. Mm-hmm. So we might do a little festival, like very short, brief period, just to stay top of mind with people, because it's always, when you have something. But other than that, we're sort of biding our time and waiting for the world to reopen again. Mm-hmm. And we know that there's going to be this huge desire and hunger for meeting each other again, and for like coming out and listening to music and being together in a space of music again. So, we'll just have to take it easy and not lose faith. We're actually in the process of expanding into Sweden, and we're seeing lovely, beautiful interest from Swedish hosts and Swedish musicians. So we're very optimistic about the future of lo-fi, but it's a tricky situation for everybody. But I think for lo-fi, it's less tricky than for a lot of the big providers of music. There are lots of platforms that tell you that they care, and you're thinking, no, you don't. You just want my money. So it's so I think. And I think it's something that we've learned also in this time that we've been going through, that community is important, especially when you end up sitting by yourself, cut off from other people in for weeks on end. Community and the strength of community, and how much it can actually do, and how much we can achieve when we do something together. That, I think, is one of the most important learnings that we can take away from these crazy times that we're in at the moment.
So you actually succeeded in creating such community, which you are carrying on out right now. But I believe in the first place, from you starting from the very, very scratch, I believe it was very difficult to even grab people's attention and just gather, because you need the people in order to have a community. I'm wondering how you identify such opportunities.
Yeah, so for in the very, very beginning, it was just me and this crazy little and then about a year into the idea, sort of, and the choice to pursue the idea, my co-founder Stine joined, and then we did a lot of crazy stuff and played around and tested a lot. And so initially, you use your network, right? You sort of just start asking people, hey. But most of our marketing, the first few years, we didn't really spend money on marketing, because if you don't know what you're doing on, for example, like paid social media, it's this deep black hole that will suck all your money, and you won't really get anything out of it. So for us, it was very important to have the expertise, and until we had that, we actually were very careful not to spend so much money. So initially, all growth was organic. The interesting thing, of course, that happens is that those concerts really are a flywheel. So once we started having concerts, and we did that straight away. When very early on, I quit my job at Copenhagen Uni back in 2015. And then I very early on got on this little incubator, 10-week incubator called Thinkubator. And it was just me and a piece of paper. It was just an idea. I had like a business model canvas, and that was it. But 10 weeks later, I had actually created an MVP of the platform, and I'd had the first concert and sold the first tickets.
Wow.
So it's all about, ideas are easy, right? Ideas are like, anybody can get an idea, but to execute on it. And once the concerts started happening, and of course they were slow and far and few between in the beginning. But then you get 30 people in that room together that all walk away saying, oh my God, that was maybe one of the best concerts I have ever been to. And they go home and they think, well, because I don't have a huge house. We have this summer cottage, which is looks much bigger behind me than it actually is, but that's just the angle of the camera. And then we have a small apartment in the center of Copenhagen. Mm-hmm. And people would come to my place and they'd attend the concert and they'd realize that, oh, I don't need a lot of space to have a concert at my house. I can have 20 square meters and have a concert at my house, in my living room. So at every concert, we have at least one, usually two people that are left with the impression that, oh, I could do this at my house. Mm. And then they sign up and become hosts. And then they invite 30 new people. And in those 30 new people, there are two people sitting and thinking, but that's 60 people, right? So then suddenly you get the potential of exponential growth, right? Because that's the way it works. Start with two people, and then like 30 people, and in those two people, next time it's those two people who come host, it's 60 people. So that's 4 people. But the next one, and so forth, right? It's a very interesting, so network effect and getting it, but initially it was organic and it was super slow. Mm. A lot of startup conversation is about hyper growth and about very fast early growth, and like companies becoming unicorns in 18 months and onboarding hundreds of thousands, all that. And that makes it sound like building a startup is a sprint. Mm. But it's not. It's not even a marathon. It's like one of those ultra races up and down mountains with like 100 kilos on your back. That's what startup is. And you need really stamina and to stay with it and not freak out when things don't happen the way that you thought it would happen. Because honestly, I thought at this point, I was expecting, when I first started out, I had read all those startup blogs and books as well. And I thought, oh man, in 3 years' time, Lo-Fi is going to be huge. And that didn't happen. Lo-Fi was not huge in 3 years' time because it takes time. Somebody else, and this is not a sentence that gets bandied around a lot. And I can't remember who it was that said it, but it is one of the sort of big, whether it's one of the big sort of entrepreneurs, but it takes about 7 years to build an overnight success.
That's not a short period of time.
No. So 7 years to build, because the thing is that most people see these companies when they've had all those learnings. So most of these companies will have been going for a long time before anything started happening, and then suddenly it takes off. Oh. And so that stretch, the long time before things start to take off, that's where you need to keep the faith.
But people only see the flashy parts.
You only see the flashy part, the hockey stick, right? Once the hockey stick is there, everybody pays attention. Yeah. But until you have that hockey stick, people are like, when you get met by when you talk to investors or whoever is saying, it's all very well, but where's your traction and how come you haven't gotten any further yet, and all those sort of things. And you just have to, and then in this, I'm very fortunate because we do have the best product in the world. Mm-hmm. And whenever I do get filled with doubt and not uncertainty, and that happens on a frequent basis, very often, at least once a month. No, but when I do, I can go to one of the concerts, so I can host one myself. And then I know, like sitting in that room, here goes the dog again, see, he agrees. I know sitting in that room that Lo-Fi needs to be in the world. And so in that respect, I'm very fortunate because there's something, it's a platform business, mm-hmm. But it's also a very, very sort of a thing. Well, it's not tangible because it's a concert, so it's It's not an object, but it's very easy for me to go back with my faith in humanity and lo-fi restored once I've been to one of these concerts. I think that's also what these concerts do. They make it so clear that lo-fi is about music. It's about being like creating a democratic and transparent economy and community for music, but it's also about connecting like the community, that it's about togetherness, and that, you know, it's more than just music. It goes beyond that, and so you know, we live in a world that can feel quite disconnected, and we spend so much time online and on screens. And so what happens at these concerts is that screens disappear. People don't see, you know, nobody's watching their concert. It would, you know, if we were having a conversation as we are right now, and I sat the whole time like this, that would be weird.
Yeah.
So people don't do that. People don't bring out their phones and watch a whole concert through their stupid little phone screen. Because the musician is right there, the artist is right there, 2 meters away, and so it's just weird and awkward if you did that. So and they don't check their emails or their Facebook, because that would also be kind of rude to sort of constantly be down here looking up. So there's this presence that we ask people to be present. And lo-fi concerts ask people to be present. It's not you can't hide, really. You can't sit and chat in a corner because there's only 20 people in the room, and so that would be super disturbing. You just have to take 1 hour of your life and sit, listen, let the music carry you to wherever you need to be in that moment of your life, and then gently meet the people around you.
So, yeah, I think it really seems very, you've gone through so much hardship, and it's really not an easy task to do all of this, but it's inevitable to find the right puzzle piece in the first place. So eventually everybody comes to failures and they gain some insight towards it.
Yep. And I mean, even so, worst case scenario, lo-fi doesn't, you know, it gets stopped in its track at some point, right? That's like and you have to, as a founder, I think it's very important to make peace with that possibility, because otherwise you end up, I think there's a real chance that you'll end up second guessing yourself so much trying to avoid that scenario that you become paralyzed. So sort of, it's a weird exercise of, on one hand, letting go and holding on, at this simultaneously. So being at peace with okay, we could go bankrupt, and then if we do, I will have accomplished like the equivalent of 3 MBAs. Or something like that, and I will have learned tons and tons along the way, and the next try is I can take all those learnings with me, and if we do succeed, then every time we fail along the way towards success is a super super important learning, right? And we will fail more than once in all of this, and it's, you know, yeah, that's. It's just it comes with the territory.
Oh, wow, it really sounds like a drama to me. I mean, then I don't know. What would be like your ultimate goal of lo-fi? Maybe you mentioned about expanding to Sweden. Maybe going really international and coming to like Korea.
Absolutely. Oh yes, absolutely. We're coming for you, Isha. You know, just wait for us. It's like, yes. So the vision is to have a community of 10 million music lovers and artists across the globe. That's the whole point of lo-fi, is that it's on one hand these ultra local scenes, and then on the other hand this big global community of musicians and concert guests that can travel and visit one another and experience concerts in one another's cultures. So this is the big dream. It's also where we need to go in order. The way that a marketplace model is set up, we make very little on each individual concert. So for it to really be a good business, and that is the goal. We need to have lots and lots of concerts. And the amazing thing is that the more concert that we have, lo-fi only exists when the community is a success. So if lo-fi is a good business, it means that the community is thriving.
It's really the people that makes it the whole thing out of it.
It is very much. We're building. We have an ambition of building the very best tool to bring this community together, and to be the very best sort of caretakers of that community. But we're not the sort of owners of the community. The community is the owner of the community.
That sounds great. I can't wait to have my own concert at my house.
Yay! Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Then lastly, do you have any final, maybe like an advice to the startup people or new entrepreneurs related to the music industry, maybe like the mindset of how you have to deal with all the hardships?
Finding a strong support system. Because it's lonely as hell. So finding I've been extremely blessed with an amazing co-founder, and I've also had a really, really strong board, but I also have an amazing support system behind me. I have an amazing husband who's like cheering me on the whole way. Some very good friends that I can talk to, and finding a good mentor, but making sure that you have a good support system, because you're going to need it. You're also going to need advice from people that aren't necessarily part of your business, that are outside and who can take a different look at it, and who aren't vested and who doesn't have vested interest in your business. I think that is, and taking care of your mental health. And support, having a support system is part of that. Teaching yourself to not, this whole sort of work 100 hours a week and don't sleep and live off coffee and sugar and other crazy stuff. It's a short-sighted strategy. Nobody can do that. It's not, you'll burn out before, and it's about stamina, right? It's about getting through that really long stretch where nothing seems to be happening and everything is moving so goddamn slow. And then suddenly you'll get like a blob of like, oh, now it's happening. This is it. Here's the hockey stick. And then, oh, no, that wasn't the hockey stick. That was just the blip on the way. It wasn't the hockey stick yet. So then, so actually those moments right after those blips of where you're thinking that this is it, now it's happening, and then it doesn't necessarily happen again. Those are the toughest. And that's, taking care of your mental health and making sure you have a great support system. Because I know, it'd be easy to say, oh, just have a peppy attitude and go do it and all that. And but people get enough of that kind of advice. So that's not, I'm going to say, take care of your head and your heart and your spirit, and make sure that you have people around you that are willing to help with that as well.
I think that's the really bottom line of everything. Keep yourself healthy in order to carry out this long road, I guess. Yeah. It's working crazy hours is always, you can test it out just in a week, pull 14 hours a day in a week and then see how efficient you are the following week. It's just I don't think I can handle it.
No.
I think you really have this good supporting system that you mentioned. I don't know, from this interview, you really mentioned about the reality, like the hardship and all the hard part, the dark part, but you seem very optimistic about this whole vision of lo-fi and everything. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Here's the thing. I know it needs to be in the world, so it will be in the world one way or another. How we'll get there exactly, I'm not entirely. I have a pretty good idea at this point. It might not be right on all points, but we'll get there.
Oh God, that motive is really touching me. I don't know. I wish your music can come all the way to my house as well. Thank you so much for your time. It was such a wonderful time.
Such a wonderful time, and so nice to talk to you. Yeah, and take care. And I hope everything is looking bright and in your end as well. And we'll hopefully talk again soon. Yeah.
Yeah. Keep safe. Don't get sick.
Safe. Yeah. All right. Bye.
Bye.